So let's now look at tuning the garbage collection process, trying to make it work more efficiently. At this stage, I want to make sure I'm running my application using Java 8, and actually I can see up here that I am. This is important for now as I'm going to be swapping to Java 11 a little later on, and at that point we'll talk about the differences in the newer versions of Java. I'm going to alter my application slightly. I know this isn't a very realistic scenario, but I want to create a particular example that will actually make the tuning easy to understand. We'll really be able to see the impact of the changes we're going to make to our tuning. So what we'll do is keep the general structure we've got here, adding customers into an array list, but we'll allow it to get a lot bigger. So rather than it being able to go to 100, let's make it 10,000 customers. I think I've got the right number of zeros there. And then rather than just removing 10 of them, we'll actually remove 5,000. So we're going to be freeing up a larger amount of customers all in one go. Now, this, as I said, is not a realistic scenario, but what I've created here is a structure that means that most customers will survive for a little while, but not really for that long. Every time a customer is created, it's going to survive until at least another 5,000 customers have created, and then at some point shortly after that, it will be available for garbage collection. So we're going to run this with a smallish heap. I think we'll go for, let's say, 20 megabytes, and we're going to look at this in JVisualVM. So I'm going to change the runtime configurations, take off the verbose GC, and make the heap size 20 megabytes. And let's start this up, and then we'll also open the JVisualVM application. And in JVisualVM, we'll connect to our main class here. And we'll go straight to the Visual GC tab and have a look at what's going on here. So what we should see is that our old generation, which is this graph here, is growing quite slowly. So what this means then is that there are some objects that are surviving the required number of generations to make it into the old generation. Eventually, our old generation is going to fill up, and then a full garbage collection will take place. I expect that when this happens, our old generation will become pretty empty. I'm going to leave this application running until the old generation garbage collection takes place, so we'll be able to see that that is indeed what happens. But while this is running, let's notice that the old generation is 13.5 megabytes, and our young generation is split into the Eden space, which is 5.5 megabytes, and our two survivor spaces, which are 2 megabytes each. So Java has dynamically altered the size of our different sections of the heap at runtime. The survivors are very, very small, and the Eden is very big in terms of how the young generation is structured. And actually, it wouldn't have started off this way. They would have started off much more equal, and Java has dynamically altered the size of these at runtime. Now, there is a runtime flag that will turn off this dynamic resizing should you want that to happen. That flag is -XX:- use adaptive size policy. It's enabled by default, so to turn it off, you need to put in the minus after the -XX:. It's enabled by default actually in most versions of Java, and you know how to check its default setting using your machine with the -XX:+ plus print flag's final flag, and because we haven't done this for a little while and we do have a running Java application, we can use the jinfo command to find out whether or not this flag is on for our application. So I think we'll do that just to remind ourselves how that works. So I've opened up a command prompt here, and I'm in the bin folder for my JDK. The first thing I need to do is get the process ID of our running application, which we can do with JPS. And well, it's one of these two mains. It probably doesn't matter which one we look at, actually. Let's look at the second one. I think that is the one we need to do. So the command to find out the value of a flag is jinfo -flag, then the name of the flag we're interested in, which is use adaptive size policy. and then the process ID, which will be 10236. Obviously, that last number will be different on your machine. And we can see the default is that it is turned on. There is a plus there with that particular flag. So we'll just go back to JVisual VM. And it's getting fuller. I'll just pause the camera and then press resume as it gets to the point where the garbage collection is about to take place. Okay, so my application has been running for a little while. As we can see, the old generation is getting to be a lot fuller now. And hopefully in just a moment, we'll see the garbage collection take place. And indeed, there was the garbage collection. And as we can see, almost all of the content of the old generation has been removed.